Hi, I'm Tom Marks with the Marks Law Firm, and welcome to the Healthy Family Law Attorney. Today we have an interview. We have a guest with us. He is a private investigator in the state of Florida. His name is Ollie Phipps, and he has, he has graduated from the University of Central Florida. He's a former U.S. Air Force Office of Special Investigations Special Agent. He's been in the investigative industry for over 35 years. He has served in detachments in Texas, the Philippines, and in Florida. He's a state licensed private investigator. He does litigation support and surveillance. Ollie, welcome to the channel.
Thank you, Tom.
How are you today?
A little chilly. How about you?
Yeah, it's a cold one. Even though we're in Florida, it was in the 30s last night, even in Central Florida. So, okay. So, Ollie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I enjoy the litigation support work that I do. As you can imagine, as a PI, we get a lot of family law related inquiries. So it's gratifying to do that. I've got two teenage kids, and I like to know that families are getting along and justice is being had.
Well, good. Ollie, so our purpose here is because we believe families matter. We want to provide hope and help to families to successfully navigate the family law process in a healthy way. And I know you support family law attorneys in litigation, obviously. So tell us, how do you provide help to families in either the divorce case or a paternity case with regard to helping ensure the well-being of the minor children?
Great question. You mentioned about doing litigation support and surveillance, and of course, there's a lot of surveillance that goes into litigation support. In particular, for child well-being cases, you've got to look out for neglect or abuse that's going on, and pretty much the only way that you're going to find out too much about that is going to be through surveillance. I had a case once where a pit bull was not supposed to be around a child, and we were able to document that the dog was regularly around the child, and so we were able to provide that evidence to the attorney. Also, background checks come into play. Let's say that you've got a situation where one spouse or the other who's going through a divorce is associating with individuals, perhaps have a serious criminal record, something like that. Obviously, there may be a concern for undesirable folks having access to the children during the time-sharing periods.
Okay, well, good. Also, talking about children, another important factor is child support. And in so many family law cases, I run into situations where you have a deadbeat parent who's not paying the child support. My client needs that. Obviously, the court will order that regardless. Neither parent can waive child support. So how do you help the parent that's supposed to receive the child support get that from a parent that's not paying it?
Right. So surveillance would come into play typically in that scenario as well, where you're establishing income and perhaps assets. So we'll usually set up early on a weekday at the subject's residence, and then we'll simply follow them to their place of work. Now, mind you, in this age of COVID, a lot of people are working remotely, but there are still folks who are required to go to a workplace. We had a client who was a grandfather of a child, and the father of a child was telling them that he couldn't work, hadn't worked, that kind of thing. And sure enough, we set up and we followed him to work. And first day out, we've got video evidence of him actively working and indeed working a full day. So that enabled our client to go back and refuse the modification that the husband wanted in the child support.
Okay, so I know that a lot of times usually one of the parents, former spouses, is working under the table, getting paid in cash, and that's always difficult, right? Because of the attorney, if that parent does not report that income on the financial affidavit, although that is considered fraud on the court, it's up to us to prove that the parent has income. And that's one of the more difficult things I find, is where a parent is being paid under the table. He's a day laborer or he's working for a family member. Do you find those situations in your investigative work also?
Oh, certainly. And they tend to be a little bit more discreet about the work that they do if they're getting paid under the table. That doesn't necessarily mean that surveillance is not going to suss them out. But certainly there's plenty of occasions where we've been told that somebody is not claiming their income. Right.
Okay, so let's switch gears here a little bit. Another big issue or hot topic is cohabitation. So in Florida, we have a statute. If one of the parties is receiving alimony and then is cohabitating with someone else, it has to be in, quote, a financially supportive relationship in order for the court to come in and either modify the alimony downward or actually end the alimony. So it's an important factor. There's a lot of history on that I could get into at some point. But I've been doing family law for 35 years, and I have many times employed the services of a private investigator to find out, okay, is that former spouse cohabitating? What are some of the indicia of a supportive relationship? I know you've had to work in that. Tell us about your experience.
Sure. Once again, surveillance is going to be the at least initial solution to that. You're going to find out if they are cohabitating simply, and all that entails usually is a drive-by the residence, look for, especially if they'll park the vehicle outside. Then you document that vehicle being consistently present at the residence late at night, particularly, and that usually sews up the cohabitation portion of it. In terms of a financially supportive relationship, you've got the way of inferring that from the expenses that you witness. So let's say that we see them go out for expensive meals or go on trips, or even to an extreme, put up a love nest for somebody, then those are going to be indicators of a financially supportive relationship.
Right. Yeah. So in addition to looking at if they've changed their mailing address, we look at, did the new significant other change their Florida driver's license address to that location? Those are clear indications that they're cohabitating. And I know you see that too.
Certainly. We've had cases before where either the vehicle registration itself has been changed to that address, or the driver's license address. And in particular, if a vehicle registration shows joint ownership, well, that's going to be hard to defense.
Right. Good point there. Okay, let's talk about another significant issue, and that is cheating. Okay. So is there adultery going on? Now, it's an interesting topic because even though in the Florida statutes, Chapter 6108, it says adultery is a factor for alimony, you have to read on, because the Florida Supreme Court has ruled that adultery is not a factor in determining either the amount of alimony or whether there's going to be alimony. But adultery does come into play, or cheating does come into play for moral fitness and for dissipation of assets if the spouse is spending money, usually some significant money, buying jewelry, trips, hotel rooms, whatever, on the adulterous relationship. So what are some of the other issues that you find in that area with cheating in your surveillance?
Well, certainly we document all those things that you just mentioned. We have documented the meals, the jewelry, the trips. We've done interviews with coworkers, because keep in mind, you've also got an angle where there may be some sexual harassment taking place. But outside of the workplace, you also want to establish moral fitness. And I've recorded liaisons before where I recall a gal picked up a guy at a bar and went out back and moved the child seat from the back seat to the front so that they could get in the back seat. Typical things like that you run into on a somewhat routine basis. I mean, when you think of PIs, you often think about infidelity, but in the sense of family law support, you want to make sure that those things are probative.
Right. And I can tell you that even if the statute says it's not relevant for alimony purposes, I've seen many cases, I've been in trial where it has come out that there's been this cheating, and it does affect the judge's opinion of that spouse. So I know that it's helpful to families in those situations to have you come in and or one of your other private investigators and testify. Tell us a little bit about some experience you've had testifying in that area.
Well, it's fortunate that having been in the business as long as I have, we've got in-house employees, but I have a wide network of trusted both general colleagues to assist in cases, as well as specialized colleagues to assist when necessary. You may have a need for digital forensics, for instance, to check out somebody's phone or computer. You might need a technical surveillance countermeasures sweep for bugs or hidden cameras or what have you. We've had that in family law cases before. Closed circuit TV, there may be a need for some unattended coverage of certain locations, as it relates to the family law case. So I'm very fortunate to be able to draw upon both the specialties and the skills of these colleagues that I've developed over the years.
And I think that's important. It kind of leads me to my next question. I had a situation one time where we had a private investigator follow one of the parties who said they were going to visit a family member, and actually drove into Orlando International Airport, got on a plane, and flew out west to another city. And the client called the investigator and said, the investigator called the client and said, hey, they just got on a plane going out of state. Obviously, that couldn't get a ticket that fast, continue the surveillance. So they had the resource to call another investigator out in that state who could meet the plane, who could follow and see what was going on. And it turned out it was significant, a significant waste of marital assets and adultery and all that. So, which really kind of did help us resolve the case favorably for our client. Do you have out-of-state or out-of-town colleagues, other professionals, independent contractors that you work with that can help us?
Oh, absolutely. I devote a lot of time and energy in maintaining my network. And so you've got professional associations. I'm on the board of the Statewide Investigator Association, a member of a national association, as well as an international association. And we keep in touch. I attend all the conventions, again, pre-COVID, but even now we're in the planning for virtual conventions. And you've got regular email and phone contact. You've got listserv postings. So I expend a lot of energy to stay up to date on what the capabilities are, where people are, and how they can support us. And they send a lot of work my way as well. So it's certainly a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful to have other relationships all over the country like that, and
Amen.
all over the state, so you can help out and provide those services wherever the need is. Okay, one last thing I want to talk about, and it's something that I experienced that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise, and that is I had a case where my client wanted to surveil his spouse, and so we hired a female private investigator, and we learned that people are not nearly as aware of a female person, like just walking down the hall in the hotel behind them, where if it had been a man, I think they would have been more cautious about it. I'm sure you have female investigators that help out, but tell us a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're not only less suspicious to your subjects, but to witnesses as well. I've got a couple of female employees that I routinely use, and I would much prefer them to go out on, I would say, a majority of the cases, just because of that advantage. So you've got a situation, like you say, if you're on surveillance, people are absolutely not going to suspect them nearly as much, or they could help provide cover for a male agent. In the case of witnesses, oftentimes we've got to canvass neighbors and such as that, and people are much more liable to open the door and talk to somebody, instead of this old man. You send a female out there, and they're going to be much less reticent to clam up.
Right. I have a question for our audience. Have you ever felt the need for a private investigator in a family law or just a family dynamic situation to know to confirm whether there's cheating going on, or whether there is some type of illicit relationship? Let us know. Put that in the comment section below. I'd love to respond to that. Ollie would respond to that also if you would like. But has anybody ever used a private investigator in a family law case? That would be interesting too. So Ollie,
Yo.
do you have a healthy tip for our audience? This is the Healthy Family Law Attorney channel, and I always ask my interviewee if you have a healthy tip for our audience.
I do. I glanced down a moment ago when you mentioned that, because I think about my cycle machine, or whatever the proper term for this machine is, and I haven't been doing it during the interview. I didn't want to distract people, but when I'm working alone, not on a Zoom call, as we often are, I'm pedaling away, and just like a stationary bike, it'll keep track of the calories burned and the distance gone. But it's a way that I can amortize my time just sitting at my desk when I'm not out chopping wood or playing tennis, to burn some more calories.
That's a good idea. I know my Fitbit reminds me every hour to get up and do some steps. And I know I've read that how important that is to just get up from your chair, or in your case, you found a way to stay at your chair and still get exercise underneath that with the pedaling. So good idea. Thank you, Ollie. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So if you've found any value in this, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're putting out new videos every Friday with interviews, and every Wednesday with legal content. So thank you for joining the channel today. Ollie, appreciate you being here. Do you have any final comments for us? I have enjoyed this. I hope our audience has too.
No, I was glad to be able to tell folks how we can assist, and I appreciate you having me on, Tom.
Well, thank you for sharing your 35 years of experience. I just thought about it. It's funny because I've got 35 years of experience as an attorney, so we must have started our respective vocations at about the same time.
Right.
So thanks again for being here. We'll see you all next time.